Melissa, the mythological Princess of Crete, is a figure with a fascinating and unique role in Greek mythology. According to ancient tales, Melissa was a nymph who was credited with being the first to discover the use of honey, thanks to the bees she cared for. She was also known as one of the nymph nurses to Zeus, the king of the gods, when he was born to his mother, Rhea, in a cave that was sacred to bees. However, there are conflicting versions of the myth, with one stating that the bees themselves nurtured Zeus, whose son was then nurtured by the Melissae. This variation in the myth adds an interesting layer to the story of Melissa and her significance in Greek mythology. The story of Melissa begins with her role as a nymph, a supernatural being who is often associated with nature in the natural world. Nymphs were believed to inhabit various natural settings, such as rivers, mountains, and forests, and were often depicted as beautiful young women. They were also associated with specific aspects of nature, such as the sea, the wilderness, or in Melissa's case, bees and honey. According to the myth, Melissa was one of the nymph nurses to Zeus, the powerful and influential king of the gods. When Zeus was born to his mother, Rhea, in a sacred cave that was home to bees, Melissa played a crucial role in his early life. As a nymph nurse, Melissa would have been responsible for the care and upbringing of the infant Zeus, providing him with the nourishment and protection he needed to grow into the powerful figure he would become. One of the most intriguing aspects of the myth of Melissa is the connection between her and the bees. In some versions of the story, Melissa was credited with discovering the use of honey, thanks to the bees she cared for. This association with honey and bees highlights Melissa's connection to nature and the natural world, as well as her role as a caretaker and nurturer. However, there are conflicting versions of the myth that add an intriguing twist to Melissa's story. According to one variation, it was not Melissa who nurtured Zeus, but the bees themselves. In this version, the bees were responsible for caring for Zeus, who was then nurtured by the Melissae, a group of priestesses who were associated with bees and honey. This variation in the myth raises questions about Melissa's role and significance in the story of Zeus's birth and early life, and adds an additional layer of complexity to her character. The myth of Melissa and her connection to Zeus and the bees has been the subject of much speculation and interpretation over the centuries. Some scholars have suggested that the story of Melissa and the bees may have originated from ancient fertility rituals and beliefs, as bees were often associated with fertility and the cycle of life. Others have pointed to the symbolic significance of honey and its association with sweetness, nourishment, and the natural world. In addition to her role as a nurturer and caretaker, Melissa is also associated with the concept of transformation and renewal. In Greek mythology, the bee was often seen as a symbol of transformation, as it undergoes a dramatic metamorphosis from a humble larva to a majestic and industrious worker. This association with transformation may have been seen as a reflection of Melissa's own role in the story of Zeus's birth and early life, as well as her connection to the natural world and the cycle of life and death. Ultimately, the myth of Melissa, the mythological Princess of Crete, is a complex and multifaceted tale that reflects the ancient Greeks' deep connection to nature and the natural world. As a nymph nurse to Zeus and a caretaker of bees, Melissa played a crucial role in the early life of the king of the gods, and her association with honey and bees highlights her connection to the cycle of life and the transformative power of nature. Although there are conflicting versions of the myth, the story of Melissa continues to capture the imagination of scholars and enthusiasts of Greek mythology, and her significance in ancient Greek culture and belief remains a subject of ongoing study and interpretation.